All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us for our latest Viking Views tonight. My name is Joel Gackel, and I'm the Senior Director of Alumni Engagement here at Augustana University. Tonight, my guest is Wayne Peterson. Wayne is the Director of Community Relations and Hockey Partnerships with the Minnesota Wild. Before that, he spent 13 years working as the Director of Marketing with the Wild. And prior to his time with the Wild, he had also worked for the Minnesota Twins. And a little fun fact and a Viking Views webinar crossover, he was hired as an intern by a previous guest, alumnus Laurel Priebe. Wayne's family is very, very well known in the Augustana community. His dad, Pastor Pete, served at Augustana for over 30 years. Wayne is a graduate from 1984. Wayne, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Hey, it's great to be on with you. Thanks for having me.
So as I mentioned, Wayne, your family is very well known. So you practically grew up at Augustana. What was that like for you?
That's all I knew. I mean, when I was a kid, I bled Augustana blue and gold. My dad is very involved with athletics. He was, assistant football coach, public address announcer for the men's basketball team, and I grew up at Howard Wood Field. I grew up at the Sioux Falls Arena. I went to the old gym where they had wrestling matches, and that was a big part of my life growing up. And I knew from the day I was born that I'd be going to Augustana, and I'm glad I did. But that was a big part of my life and a lot of great memories.
As you mentioned, your dad worked in a variety of roles in athletics, but he also worked in student life and campus ministry. So what was it like to see your dad in all those different roles?
My dad was the first campus pastor at Augustana, but I was very, very young at that time. And so I really don't have many memories of that. My memories are of him being the dean of students and being involved with athletics. My dad also was an incredible man, many talents. He was also did some live theater with the students. So I remember growing up with that. He also had my dad had a lot of people said he had the voice of God. He was a big man and had an incredible bass voice, and it was very intimidating at times, let me tell you. But he was also a singer. And that was also a big part of my life growing up, seeing my dad, whether it be athletics or campus ministry or, the theater or music. I was exposed to a lot of that through him, and it was a great childhood.
So what did you think you wanted to be when you were growing up, practically living on campus?
Back then, I just had a love of sports. I really had a love of sports, but there wasn't such a defined career path, back in when I went to high school in the late 70s, and even when I went to college. There was only a few universities that offered, sports marketing or sports administration at the graduate level. And so, my first job out of college, I worked at First City Bank in Sioux Falls, and it paid the bills, but it wasn't really satisfying. And I decided to quit my job there, and I applied to grad school at 3 different universities: Mankato, Iowa State, and Ohio University. And I really wanted to relocate to the Twin Cities. And when I got accepted to Mankato, I just took that chance. And 1986, I enrolled at graduate school at Mankato. And then I was fortunate enough to get hired as an intern in 1987 with the Minnesota Twins. And that was an unbelievable experience. As any Twins fan knows, that was the first World Series championship. And then after that, I got my degree, and the Twins hired me full time. And so I've been in professional sports since 1987, 13 seasons with the Twins. And then in 2000, I got a phone call from the Minnesota Wild asking me if I'd be interested in moving from Minneapolis to St. Paul and moving from baseball to hockey. And I really hadn't given it any thought. But I thought when I got a phone call that, this might be a great opportunity to move to a new team that's going to be starting out, at the ground floor. And I said, what the heck? And so I left the Twins and went to St. Paul and have been with the Minnesota Wild, since 2000. And no regrets. I loved my time with the Twins, but I've loved my time with the Wild. And from a personal standpoint, working in the NHL is a lot easier than working in Major League Baseball, because you've got half the games. And when you work in Major League Baseball, you don't have much of a summer because you're at the ballpark all the time, and long, crazy hours, lots of nights, lots of weekends. But in the NHL, you don't mind working the crazy long hours in January and February when it's 10 degrees outside and you get started at 4:30. But it's been a great 20 years. Hard to believe. It's been a great 20 years. I celebrated my 20th anniversary in August, and God willing, I'll finish up my career with the Wild.
Wow. Well, it's evident, being around your dad, being around sports took a hold of your life at an early age. You mentioned there wasn't really a second thought with whether or not you'd come to Augie, but sometimes growing up at a place makes it so you want to push out and start something on your own. Was that ever a thought in your mind, or was there just no doubt, like, I'm going to come to Augie?
Well, I'll never forget the conversation I had with my dad. And I had just taken my ACT, and you could send your scores to like 3 schools. And I told him the 3 that I was going to send him to, and Augie was one of them, of course. And my dad said to me, Wayne, you can go anywhere you want to go. But if you go to these 2 schools, you're paying for it. If you go to Augie, it's free. It's your decision. So that really wasn't much of a difficult choice to make. I'm the youngest of 4 kids, and my 2 sisters and my brother also went to Augustana, so I followed in their footsteps. I have a niece and a nephew that went to Augustana. My oldest son went down to Augustana on a football scholarship, and so it's really been a big part of our family.
Wow. So you knew campus, but when you came, you forged your own path. So who was the person or the people that really left a mark on your life while you were here on campus?
I would say that, from an academic standpoint, Dr. Jim Meter, who was a political science professor. He also he played baseball. He played in the Chicago White Sox organization, if my memory serves correct. Really had a connection with him. Academics didn't come easy to me. I had to work hard for my grades, and he was a big influence on getting me down the right path and getting focused on academics, and some people too that Jim Heinitz. He was obviously very involved with the football program, and he and I and another coach and another buddy of mine played a lot of racquetball in that old gym, and he was a pretty good influence on me as well. So I would say that those 2, and then even Sven Freuland, Dr. Sven Freuland, the biology teacher, a good friend of my dad's, good friend of the family's. And I'll never forget, I knew him as growing up as a kid, and I had him for freshman biology. I'll never forget the first day of class. First of all, science is not my thing. And he was saying that if he catches anybody cheating on an exam, that I'll make sure you never get into any med school in this country. And it's like, well, I had no interest in going to med school anyway. But it was just, that opened my eyes too. It's like, wow, okay, this isn't high school. This is pretty serious here. But a lot of great memories, going way back at Augustana.
So what, again, growing up on campus, forging your own path here, what has Augustana meant to your life?
Just just the memories, and I spent all 4 years on campus. I there wasn't giving me any chance that I was going to live at home, so I spent all 4 years on campus, and most of my best friends were athletes, so they lived on campus with me, and just you know just great memories. Going to the football games and going to the basketball games, and yes, there were parties at good old Augie Christian, as we called it back then. Just a lot of great memories, and still some longstanding relationships that I still have kept today. In fact, I'm going to be golfing with an Augie grad in a couple weeks, Fred Johnson, and I see at Wild Games from time to time, I'll see some people that I went to school with, and it's always great to reconnect. At Xcel Energy Center in St. Paul over a Wild Game. So it's just nothing but great memories of Augustana.
And one of the joys of my role is I get to connect with students who are wondering what they could be, what they might be with their next chapter. For you, you mentioned it briefly. You started in banking and then decided, all right, to take that leap and pursue sports administration, sports management. What did that look like for you? Did you feel like you were stuck? Did you feel like you were ready for the next thing? What did that process look like?
Well, it was scary and exciting at the same time. I had lived my entire life in Sioux Falls. I had family in the Twin Cities, but my entire life in Sioux Falls. Like I said, I had a good job. I was living on my own, paying the bills, but it just wasn't really rewarding and rewarding work. And I just knew I needed something else. And I decided, if not now, when? I was 24 years old at the time and thought, might as well, I'm going to roll the dice and go for it. And boy, was that maybe the best decision I ever made. Because, working in professional sports, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of hours, but it's very, very rewarding work. Especially, I'm fortunate to do what I do. It gives you a big platform to do great things for people, and sometimes just little things can mean the world to people. And just having that platform and be able to do that every day, it's very rewarding, and I'm very, very thankful for the job that I have.
You mentioned you were incredibly fortunate to land your internship in 1987, the year of the first World Series, and then be a full-time employee in 91 when they won their second.
Yep.
Is there one memory that really stands out from your 13 years with the Minnesota Twins?
Oh boy, well, it's 87 and 91 were just incredible, and both really came out of nowhere. I mean, in 87, I don't think anybody even gave the Twins a second thought about winning the World Series, let alone winning the division. And it was just so magical because it was the first major championship for any Minnesota sports team. And to be a part of that and was just so special. And not only for me, but I was able to share that with my family and share it with my closest friends. And my mom my mom has a lot of family history books, and she recently gave me the one from all my years with the Twins, and I just looked through it recently. It's like, oh wow, oh wow, oh wow. And it was just so fun to be a part of it and to share that with my family and friends, and then to turn around and do it again, 4 years later. And it was a little bit more meaningful from a professional standpoint because I was a full-time employee at that time. But both were, how lucky was I to be a part of that? And I don't know how many more years I'll be working. Probably 7. If my wife is listening, probably 10. But I would sure love a Stanley Cup championship to go with a World Series championship. That would really be a great way to bookend my career. Just have one at the start, one at the end. That'd be pretty special.
Now, you live in Minnesota, nicknamed the state of hockey.
Yes.
And you saw the North Stars leave town in the 90s, early 90s, and get their hearts just ripped out. And
Yes.
as the Wild started back up and you were approached, what was your initial thinking with what it might look like to have your fingerprints on this brand new team that's going to kind of heal the state of hockey?
That was also kind of scary too. Kind of going back to when I, decided to go for it with grad school. And like I said, I had no intentions whatsoever of trying to move and change careers at that time. And when I remember the phone call I got, I was at home and they said, "Hey, would you be interested in talking about coming to work for the Wild?" And I said, "Sure, I'd love to. I'd love to come talk about it." And so I went over and I met some people. And let me tell you, the leadership of the Minnesota Wild when I first began was incredible. I started at the top with our owner, Bob Nagley, who has since passed. Just an incredible man. And the president, Todd Leiweke, who is now he's moved. He was with the NFL, he's with the Seahawks, he's with the Tampa Bay Lightning, and now he's with the new NHL franchise in Seattle. Just an incredible man. And I'll never forget Bob Nagley. I met him when I was over there for my interview. And then I didn't see him again until maybe a month later. And I hadn't even officially started yet. But he remembered my name. And that really meant a ton. Because here's a man who's worth millions and knows a ton of people. And he had met me once, weeks prior, and remembered my name. And it just really meant a lot to me. And the culture with the Minnesota Wild was and is a very special place. And it was scary because I was very happy and comfortable with the Twins. But I thought, you know what, this could be a good opportunity for me professionally. And it has been. It's been a great move. As much as I love my time at the Twins, my move to the Wild, I don't regret it one bit.
Well, this has been a year unlike any other. So what did your role with the team look like before March, and what has it looked like since March?
Oh, well, this is my home office now. Our office has been shut down. We only can go in if it's absolutely necessary. And I was one of the last few. I left kicking and screaming because I had never had any desire to work from home. I loved going to the office and just being there with the people. But it's been, night and day. There's a lot of businesses that have thrived during the pandemic, and then there are businesses like ours that are really, really struggling. And when you work for a company that relies on gathering large crowds, that's not good. And it's been really, really tough. I'm thankful that I'm still fully employed and I'm staying busy. But it's been very, very challenging to really plan because we just don't know for sure when the season's going to start. And when it does start, we don't know if we're going to have fans. So there's a lot of questions and very, very few answers. And so it's been very challenging. It's been very challenging 6 months. And it's hard to believe we're already in September. I mean, right now we'd be gearing up. We'd be in the midst of training camp, preseason about to start, and the regular season starting in early October. I mean, it's crazy right now. We're in the conference finals. But so it's been a challenge. Like I said, I'm thankful that I'm still employed. I'm thankful that I'm staying busy, but I'm anxious when we turn that corner and we get back to some sense of normalcy and we have 18,000 plus fans again at the arena, because there's nothing like it.
Now, hockey restarted somewhat similar to the NBA.
Yep.
What were some of your thoughts that you've heard from the bubble format for teams?
You know what? I'll say I'm often critical of the NHL, but I got to tell you, they knocked it out of the park. They did a great job with the bubbles up in Edmonton, where we played, and in Toronto, where the Eastern Conference is playing. They did a phenomenal job. And from talking to just a couple of people from our staff that were up there, is very limited as to how many people could go per team. And I talked to Alex Stalock since he got back, our goalie, and they were all spoke very highly of the job the NHL did. And I tell you, Major League Baseball has had its challenges, and the NFL remains to be seen, but I have a feeling that's going to have some challenges. But the NHL and the NBA have 0 cases of COVID, is incredible. And I personally, I was wondering what it's going to be like to watch an NHL game without fans. But I tell you what, they've done a great job, and there are times you don't even notice that the stands are empty, because when there's a great hit, or if there's a great save, or if there's a goal, it sounds like it's full of fans. And so they've done a great job, and hats off to the NHL for the job they've done. And I had my doubts, are we going to crown a Stanley Cup champion? Well, yeah, we are. And it's, so far so good.
Now, there have been several different media companies who have done the top players of the first 20 years, the Minnesota Wild. So being a new team, who do you feel like was really the first member of the Wild to put them on the national map?
Oh, without a doubt, Marian Gaborik.
Yeah.
He was our first ever draft pick. He was the 3rd pick overall. And I would say, even to this day, he was by far our most skilled player, our most dynamic player. He was a scorer. It's one thing we haven't had a lot of, is pure scorers. But Marian Gaborik, without a doubt, is probably the best player that we've ever had. Now, Kevin Fiala is showing some promise. He really had a breakout season, and he's really exciting to watch. And then we finally signed Kirill Kaprizov, the Russian, and we drafted him several years ago, and we finally signed him, and he'll be in uniform for us whenever the season starts this coming season. He has been a star in the Russian KHL league, which is a very, very good league at such a young age. He was a star of the Russian team in the Olympics. So we are very excited to see what he's going to bring to the Minnesota Wild. But I'd say, without a doubt, Marian Gaborik was our most gifted player.
Now, I also read that you've gotten involved with the Positive Coaching Alliance, working with youth sports. How have you seen youth sports change over the last 20 years?
Well, I've been, so I'm the proud father of 2 boys, and Corey and Jeff, and both were involved in youth sports. I coached football, basketball, baseball, and lacrosse. I think those are the 4. I served on a baseball board and a football board, and I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly with youth sports. And And I'm being with the Positive Coaching Alliance. I'm proud to be on their board. I think they have maybe 15 or 16 national chapters. And there are representatives, from the Wild, Vikings, Twins, Gophers, and Timberwolves, Lynx that are on the board with me. And our goal is to change the culture of youth sports. And PCA's goal is to really educate coaches and parents and just try to make it an overall more positive experience for the kids. Because right now, youth sports, just isn't what it used to be. It's just, and parents are a lot to blame. And also, there's so much specialization now in youth sports that kids are being forced to make choices at such a young age at what sport they want to play. And we work very, very closely with Minnesota Hockey, which is the governing body of amateur hockey in Minnesota. And they discourage summer hockey. Glenn Andreessen, a friend of mine who is the executive director, he publicly states we want kids to play multiple sports. You talk to some of the top college coaches, doesn't matter what sport they coach, they actually recruit multi-sport athletes. My oldest son, Corey, who went to Augustana, is a strength and conditioning coach at the University of Minnesota. And he highly recommends multi-sport athletes because of overuse and then injuries. But youth sports just isn't what it used to be, which is pretty sad. And I can remember as a kid riding my bike and bringing my tennis racket to Spelleberg Park in Sioux Falls and just playing tennis all day with my buddies and going to the swimming pool. Now everything is so organized. Parents are driving kids to practice, and it's just changed so much. But if we can educate the parents, educate the coaches, and try to make a more positive experience for the kids, then that's what we're hoping to do.
Looking back on a career that spans over 30 years in professional sports, if you weren't in professional sports, what would you be doing today?
Probably teaching and probably coaching. That's what I thought I would probably teach and coach. I coached a lot with my kids. I love teaching. I love coaching, and I love talking to students that are interested in a career in sports. I love that, just being around younger people. I love teaching and coaching. I love, you mentioned Laurel Prieb. He was kind enough to give me an informational interview way back in the day. And now when I get approached about giving informational interviews, I'm happy to do it because I want to pay it forward. And any advice I can give somebody to, help them get their foot in the door, I'm happy to do. So I would say I'd probably be teaching and coaching.
Okay. So what is the advice that you'd give if there were Augie students that were on this webinar tonight and wanted to work in professional sports? What advice would you give them?
Two things. One is to really build your resume and, build it with relevant experience. And if you're interested in working in sports, it's so competitive. We'll post an internship and we'll have to pull it in 2 days because we've had 400 applications. It's so competitive. And anything you can do to separate your resume from literally the hundreds of others. And if you want to work in sports, your resume should reflect that with your work experience and to a degree your educational background. But if you want to work in sports, you probably shouldn't be working, have a Target and working at a nursery. You should be working, if you're in Sioux Falls, for the Canaries or the Skyforce, or if you're a student at Augustana working in the athletic department. So really build your resume with relevant work experience is number one. And number two is networking. Networking is so important. I'm going to reference my oldest son again, Corey. He is an incredible networker, and it's really gotten him far. And just it opens a lot of doors. And if you know people, there's some truth to saying it's not what you know, it's who you know. You know, that can open a lot of doors for you. And then once you get a door opened, you know, if you get an interview, be prepared. Do your homework. It's amazed me the number of times I've talked to candidates and they are just so ill prepared. And just, you know, do your homework. If you're interviewing for a wild job, if you can, go to a wild game. Go to our website. Follow us on social media. I mean, learn as much as you can about the company, and then come with questions. And then also anticipate the questions you might be asked, so you're not stumped in an interview. So I mean, so I would say build your resume, network, and then do your homework. That would help a lot.
Okay. All right, so we'll close with a little bit of rapid fire here. What was your best memory from your time at Augustana?
Boy, that I can say on, I would say anytime we beat South Dakota State in football or basketball. That was always a lot of fun. And I tell you what, I remember back in the day, you may not even know this, but because South Dakota State now, obviously we don't play South Dakota State anymore, but they were the Jackrabbits. And I may or may not have been involved with throwing a dead jackrabbit on a basketball court. And I'll tell you what, there was, when we played USD, the Coyotes, my dad had in his office the skin of a dead coyote that was thrown on the floor at an Augie USD game. So anytime we beat mostly South Dakota State or USD in football or basketball it meant it was a fun night.
Yeah. What is your favorite restaurant in the Twin Cities?
Oh boy. No, I live in Stillwater, and my wife and I just love it here. And we've got a great downtown. It's a great river town if you're not familiar with Stillwater. Main Street. Actually, the St. Paul Pioneer Press did a story this summer about other restaurants in downtown Stillwater. There's over 30 right now with outdoor dining options because of COVID. I'm a pretty simple guy when it comes to food. So if I can go to a place with a good burger, we go to a place called Madcappers quite a bit downtown Stillwater. It's pretty simple. They got a lot of TVs, so I can watch a football game or a baseball game or a hockey game. So I'm going to go with the Madcappers. Seems to be our go-to restaurant downtown Stillwater. But we have lots of great options downtown Stillwater.
Okay, true or false? 1991 World Series. Did Herbeck pull Ron Gant off first base?
Okay. Can I tell a story?
Yeah.
Okay. And I just brought this up. I told you last or 2 weekends ago, I was in the Black Hills with a bunch of high school buddies for my fantasy football draft, and this story actually came up. Okay. So that happened game 2 of the World Series. Okay. And so we went, I flew down to Atlanta with the team, and let's just say they really didn't roll out the red carpet for us. Okay. And Herbeck actually had death threats.
Wow.
And this was an off day, and myself and a few other of my colleagues, and then Kent Herbeck's sister, went to a bar called Chevy's. And we had nothing Twins on, because we wanted to blend in. We don't want to, okay? Somehow they found out that there was a group of Twins employees, and the fact that Kent Herbeck's sister was with us in the bar. And the DJ got on and said a few nasty things about us that I can't repeat. And it's like, oh my gosh, we need to get the heck out of here. I was never so glad to get out of a city. I mean, we got swept, which wasn't any fun, but that was a kind of a scary night. And then also after the '91 World Series, Herbeck and his wife Jeannie went to the Bahamas, and they had a connecting flight in Atlanta, of all places. And his connecting flight was delayed. So he kind of hid as, I mean, he was a big boy. He hid as best he could, because he was a marked man in Atlanta. So there's a couple of funny, I tell you what, I see Herbeck from time to time. I talk to him. I never once asked him, and I'm sure if I don't know what he'd say, but sure kind of looked like it, didn't it?
Yes, it sure
they
did.
called him out. That was the most important thing. That was a replay that was played many, many times over and over again.
Last question. In all the sporting events, games you've watched, has there ever been someone come through in the clutch more than Black Jack Morris in Game 7?
Oh, boy. Well, I'd have to say Kirby Puckett. I got to know Kirby really well, and he was just a great guy, a generous guy. But remember what happened before Game 7.
We'll see you tomorrow night.
Yeah, if Puckett doesn't hit that home run, Jack Morris doesn't pitch that complete game shutout. And Puckett, when he came to the ballpark that night for Game 6, they were down 3-2. And he said in the clubhouse, "Okay, boys, don't worry, jump on my back. We're going to win this game." And he also made a great catch that night in center field against the plexiglass. And interesting story there too is that they had just brought in Charlie Leibrandt to pitch to Puckett, and Chili Davis was on deck. And Puckett said to Davis before he went up to the plate, he goes, "I'm going to lay down a bunt, and I'm going to steal second, and you knock me in." And Davis said, "The heck I am. Just go up there and finish this game right now." And sure enough, he did. And I will never forget Game 6 or Game 7. Those were both just incredible memories. And so I Blackjack, he did okay, but we never would have had that chance if Puckett didn't hit that home run in the bottom of the 10th inning to win that game in Game 6. That was a lot of fun.
Well, Wayne, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been an honor. As someone grew up fans of the places where you've worked, it's been an honor to walk down memory lane. For those of us who joined tonight, join us on Monday night when our very own President Stephanie Hearst-Sandlin is going to host a panel of unbelievable, inspiring women who are going to look back and reflect on 100 years since the ratification of the 19th Amendment. Until then, everyone have a great night. And thanks again, Wayne.
Thank you.